Miami was facing one of the more potent offenses in the NBA on Tuesday night, so you knew they had their hands full defensively. But it was the Heat that was unstoppable scoring machine, setting multiple records in a 144 to 115 win. What went right? What happened with Miami's rotations? Is this a team hitting their peak as they enter the playoffs? We'll break it all down on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Heat Nation. It's a Wednesday edition of Locked On Heat, your daily podcast covering all things Miami Heat, however you may be listening or watching on YouTube, Odyssey, or on your favorite podcast app. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every day. I'm David Ramil. With me, as always, is my co-host, Wes Goldberg, coming live from FTX Arena. The Heat were shorthanded once again on Tuesday, giving Kyle Lowry a day of rest and missing Dwayne Dedmon once again, taking on a fast-paced, hot-shooting Charlotte Hornets team. They were fielding their 21st different lineup of the season with Gabe Vincent in place of Lowry alongside Jimmy Butler and PJ Tucker, both of whom missed Sunday's game versus Toronto, as well as Max Strus and Bam Adebayo. And while the Hornets started the first and third quarters with a burst of offense that would have made winning impossible in past years, Miami's offense was the one that caught fire tonight, scoring 144 points in the second highest scoring total in franchise history, hitting a franchise record 23 made three-pointers, and they were led by Tyler Herro's 35 points, tying Dwayne Wade for the most in Heat history. Chris Quinn was coaching Miami again on Tuesday as Eric Spoelstra continued to miss time as part of the NBA's health and safety protocols, and he did another masterful job of managing this group and rotating players at the right time, all of which led to an explosive offensive display, Wes.
Yeah, and it did take the Heat a little while to warm up into this thing, but once they warmed up, they couldn't cool down, right? I mean, this was a historic night for a lot of reasons. The most points ever in a regular season regulation game for the Heat with 144, breaking the record for the most threes made in a game with 23. And it's not like they shot 70 threes to get those 23. They shot 23 of 42 overall. That's 55% shooting from three-point range. They assisted on 30 of their 48 makes tonight. The ball was moving. It was crisp. Charlotte wasn't doing anything to stop them. I like credit. A lot of credit goes to the Miami Heat, of course, and just their shooting. And we'll get into some of the specifics there. But it's like Charlotte just didn't even bother to defend the three-point line. I don't know if that was like a strategy that they're employing. Like, hey, let's just give up all these threes. They just went under on every screen, whether it was Jimmy Butler or Duncan Robinson shooting, and the Heat just saw it and they said, okay, this is how you're going to defend us, go ahead. And Tyler Herro, was it Tyler Herro? Yeah, Tyler Herro after the game said, we knew the way that they play, we could score a lot of points. That's like the nicest way to say, this team don't play no defense, and we were going to have our run of it if we could just make some shots, and they did tonight.
Yeah, the Charlotte Hornets are the fourth worst defense in the league. They give up an average of 114 points. They give up about 36%, roughly middle of the pack in the NBA on three-point shooting defense. But Miami didn't really seem to care. They took advantage of those opportunities. And yes, a lot of players caught fire, but they built on what Charlotte was giving them and they added to it. And again, they're hitting their peak at just the right time as they enter the playoffs. And you mentioned Duncan Robinson, who I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later. But coming off the bench, he's been demoted to some degree here, and yet he was on fire on Tuesday night, hitting, 7 made three-pointers, 7 of 11 from the field, all three-point attempts to finish with 21 points.
4 of 5 in that second quarter, too, where the Heat outscored Charlotte 41-28. They turned what was a 10-point deficit early in the game in that first quarter into a 10-point lead at halftime. Charlotte gets out to a little 8-0 spurt to start the third quarter. But that was about it. That was like the last little bit of fight that the Hornets had. And Duncan Robinson, like you said, when he is playing like that, and I know that we've talked about the Heat spacing and the new rotation and all of that, and all of it is very, very important. But what I found so interesting about this game, other than just the bonkers amount of points that the Heat put up, was just sort of this continuing discovery of what this new rotation means, not just for Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, who are playing in more space than they ever have, but for everybody on this team. And I tweeted out the highlights on a couple different buckets that Duncan Robinson made in that second quarter spurt that I was talking about. And just the way that Jimmy Butler is screening for Duncan Robinson. Again, we talk about what all this space and playing with shooters means for a guy like Jimmy, but what it means for a guy like Duncan Robinson, where he's playing in space now, and he talked about it a little bit after the game, and he used the word symbiotic to describe just how all of this stuff works. And that's what I'll use a different word, David. I'll call it flow. We can call it flow because when everybody's just playing off of each other in that way, that's what stood out to me tonight. This continued evolution of this Heat offense that is just doubling down on space. This is the best three-point shooting team in the league by percentage. They're right in the middle of the pack, I think 12th or 13th in three-point attempts per game. But if they're playing like this, that three-point number can start to tick up. Because you know what they did tonight, David? They hit that 40-point the 43-point attempt threshold that I've been banging the drum about all season long. 42 attempted threes tonight. That's right where they should be. And when they're playing like this, that's where they will be.
Yeah, offense just looks so good, so crisp. And again, a little inside-out game. They were attacking the paint with Bam Adebayo. He did a great job going up against Mason Plumlee, accepting the challenge of Plumlee's physicality, just trying to do what he could to work. You could see that Bam was motivated early on in trying to set the pace and going against Plumlee, getting him to foul trouble. Eventually, Plumlee picked up an early fourth foul, picked up a technical after that, arguing the call. But by that point, Bam had already established his dominance inside, and that freed up space for everybody else to attack the paint or to spray to the outside. Gabe Vincent did a very, very good job managing the game. While he was not great offensively in general as far as his scoring production was concerned, he did a nice job of finding cutters, finding open guys from along the perimeter, and taking advantage of whatever opportunities the Hornets gave him. It was just a really good, free-flowing offense, to your point. And again, Miami hitting at a historic rate, 23 made three-pointers.
Yeah, I mean, and before you move off the Gabe Vincent point too, I thought defensively, Charlotte came out with a game plan. I guess when you're looking at a lineup of, Max Strus, I actually was surprised they didn't attack Strus more. They looked like they were kind of targeting Gabe earlier in that game, and it was a little weird because LaMelo got off to a hot start. I think he made like 2 of his first threes, and he was celebrating and kind of flashing grins at the sideline. And I was like, all right, well, whatever, make these now because this is good. If I know anything about LaMelo Ball, this will regress to the mean. And it certainly did in the game. He only had 18 points on 7 of 13 shooting, 4 of 9 from 3-point range.
He had like 9 of those in the first quarter. 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So cooled off substantially afterward. Even decent game, 14 assists, a couple really flashy ones. He's really fun to watch. Nothing against him, but wasn't killing the Heat by any stretch tonight. But anyway,
not
back
an
to the Gabe
all-star.
Vincent point.
LaMelo Ball,
not an all-star. No. Back to the Gabe Vincent point though. It looked like they were trying to get the switch with Bam, because they were trying to set up either PJ Washington or Miles Bridges going up against Gabe Vincent, and so LaMelo ended up isolated on Bam a bunch of times on the perimeter, and like I said, hit those threes early, and I think that kind of took Charlotte out of their offense. It kind of made LaMelo sort of like maybe double down with confidence, like, hey, maybe I could take Bam. Like I just said, that was not the case all night long, and they didn't really attack that Gabe matchup, maybe as much, or even the Strus matchup, as much as I thought they would early on, because it is a team that likes to seek out switches and stuff like that with their bigger guys. They're a little bit like Cleveland, Charlotte is. They basically start 3 bigs in that starting lineup between PJ Washington, Miles Bridges, and Mason Plumlee. But they didn't really commit to their game plan, their best version of their game plan, I should say. While the Heat did, they committed to the best version of their game plan. They executed it really well, and that's why they were able to pull away. Should also just mention, on defense, it was a high-scoring game the entire night. The Hornets, here are their scores by quarter here. 32 points in the first quarter, 28 in the second quarter. Like I said, 37 in the third quarter when they had that little run at the start of the second half. Then just held to 18 points in the fourth quarter. I know that this was a game about offense, and it was about offense. But credit to Miami's defense for locking it down in the fourth quarter, too.
Not just defensively, but I think they also continued to improve offensively as well. They had 70 first half points, but they stuck to their plans, as you mentioned.
Yeah, their fourth quarter was their highest scoring quarter. That's a good point. I didn't even notice that. 42 points in the fourth,
Yeah, they got better. A lot of that was Tyler Herro, too. I think he had 13 fourth quarter points. And that was with him missing most of the fourth quarter because, by that point it was already a well-established blowout. Omer Yurtseven got significant playing time. Haywood Highsmith got
we got our Michael Mulder season debut.
And he knocked down a 3.
Smart some minutes, he knocked down a 3. I know. Of course he did.
He's part of a record-setting night. That's it. He's in the record books. That's perfect. That was the perfect summation of the night. Is it a guy who got barely any playing time, still wind up chipping in and knocking down a 3 to chip into a historic night? That was fantastic. Miami just looked really, really good. And to my point, I think they are just continuing to hit their peak. We've seen it slowly build over this 5-game winning streak. Now a 5-game winning streak.
Yes. Tied for
Miami has
season
gotten
long.
better. That's right. And still in first place with a commanding 2.5-game lead over the Boston Celtics. It looks like they'll probably be able to hang on to home court advantage with just 2 games left in the regular season. But we'll give credit where credit is due in the next segment. And then we'll ask some big picture questions about this rotation because Victor Oladipo, who started on Sunday night, did not play a single minute. So we'll break that down here on Locked On Heat. But first, just a reminder that this is a new sponsor for the show, Shady Rays. They're an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anything else is that Shady Rays has an insane protection program. They include lost and broken protection on every pair of glasses sold. They will send you a brand new pair if you ever lose one, no matter what happened. Give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. They're backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. And on top of that, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. So exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com. That's SHADYRAYS.com and use the promo code Locked On to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code Locked On for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses.
Thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and it's available wherever you get your podcasts. It's time to get in the kitchen and whip up some credit cookies. David, what kind of cookies do we have on our table today?
Well, in honor of Tyler Herro and Duncan Robinson having such a big night, we're going with Vienna Fingers, I think they're called, the vanilla cream
Vienna
filled
fingers.
cookie. Yeah, Vienna
Okay, I
Fingers.
thought
They're
you were going to
peanut
go with
butter.
white chocolate, but okay.
No. Vanilla. They're vanilla cream filled cookies
Oh,
with
so same
a
thing.
white cookie racer. Yeah, basically.
Vanilla. Okay, so what are we calling them?
Vienna Fingers. That's what they're called. Vienna Fingers.
Vienna
They're like
fingers. Okay, all right. So we
you've
got
probably
10.
seen them. The
10.
oval cream filled cookies. Let's go with it. That's what they're all.
I honestly have no idea what you're talking about.
Wow, you've never seen these before? They're delicious.
I'm
Even
sure
I
I
like
did.
them. And I'm not a cookie guy, and here I am talking about Vienna
Apparently
Fingers.
not.
Okay.
This is the first. Oh, these? Come on, man. This is shortbread. What are we talking about here?
No, they're cream filled. There's like a vanilla cream
All right.
filling in between 2 wafers. Wes,
Do you
what
like
are you talking
Oreos?
about? Yeah, sure, but these are without the chocolate.
Okay.
I mean, you go
They're
vanilla
longer.
cream. Hey, Tyler Herro scored 35 points. Wes Duncan Robinson had 21 points. We're going vanilla tonight, buddy. That's the
So we
theme
got
of the show.
10 Vienna fingers, and I'm going to give 5 of them to Tyler Herro. And it's not the right amount. He shouldn't have that many because we have too many Vienna fingers to give away. But there is nothing like watching Tyler. I'm sure we can. But there's a lot of food all around me right now in the arena. But no, there is just something about it when Tyler Herro has it going like this I've talked about it so many times before, the magic, the imagination that he captures from the fan base. And when he gets it going like this, FTX just gets loud. It rocks. And it's just a cool thing to experience. I've like I said, I've said this many times, but the only thing that I can compare it to is when I covered the Warriors and I would watch Steph Curry just go on a roll. The way that Warriors fans responded to Steph, it's the same way that Heat fans respond to Tyler Herro. And 35 points tonight, we're off the bench. We're talking about breaking Dwayne Wade's record. And this is not the first time that he's in the conversation with Dwayne Wade as far as what he's able to do off the bench. Now, of course, we know how Dwayne Wade's career took off after setting all of these records off the bench. But Tyler Herro, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Dwayne Wade, but he matters. He matters in a way that it's not quite Dwayne Wade, obviously.
Right.
But Heat fans just love him and adore him in a way that is very similar also to the way that they responded to Dwayne Wade. Again, it's not even in the same atmosphere, but it's just sort of the same type, if that makes any sense. And when he has it going like this, 35 points on 11 of 18 shooting, 6 of 10 from three-point range. My favorite moment was when he had that fast break, had that layup, wide open layup, and he was like, you know what, we're up by like 30 bajillion points. I'm just going to take this one out and just see if I can make one more three. And he missed it, and then he just smiled and laughed, and everybody just went nuts. That was the best thing he could have done. Great night from Tyler. Love to see those kinds of nights.
Yeah, it's the 35 points is fantastic. Dwayne, the separation for me is that Dwayne's points, I hate to say it like this so simplistically, but it felt like they mattered more at times where it was crucial to saving a game or changing the face of a game offensively. I can't recall the exact nuances of Dwayne's rookie season where he was coming off the bench and setting those
Yeah.
records, but at the same time, like it feels a little different. Like Tyler is just an integral part of the offense in such a way that it just doesn't feel like it doesn't change the meter in terms of like the pace or the feel of the game. It's more exciting. It's exciting to watch it, and yet it just doesn't feel like
You're right. That's a
he's
really
going
good
to get a
point.
bucket. He's just
Yeah,
going to get
no,
his points.
D Wade got those tough buckets. He worked for them, and he got them when they mattered. You're right. Like he would get those, like the legendary steal and score against Chicago. Like, yeah, no doubt, he created so much offense by himself in a way that was probably more reminiscent of like Jordan or something like that, or
Yes,
Kobe
yes,
than
yeah.
what. And that's why so maybe I scratch the Dwayne Wade stuff. Cool that Tyler Herro's in that conversation with Dwayne Wade as far as Heat records are concerned, but it is more like Steph Curry. Like Steph Curry is not the
Right,
Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan disciple. He is more of like what we're talking about. He
right.
just he can ride a wave, he can create a wave, and he kind of just rises with the offense, but he can also raise the offense with him. And
He's
there's
a
just a momentum
beneficiary.
thing.
Yeah, a beneficiary when the team is playing well, more like
Yeah.
not necessarily changing the
It's like
pace
a
and
force
creating.
multiplier on offense, right? And
Yeah,
it
that's
just
good. That's good.
everything just kind of crescendos at the same time. But it kind of needs Tyler Hero to crescendo. It doesn't need Tyler Hero to
Absolutely.
succeed, but it needs Tyler Hero to crescendo at its highest, peak
Yeah,
or whatever happens with a
that's fair.
crescendo. So yeah, so that's five vanilla nuggets to Tyler Hero, whatever we're calling them. Um,
Vanilla nuggets. That sounds disgusting. All right.
I'm
How
giving
many did Duncan get?
three vanilla. Oh, we're gonna get done. I only have. I want to give three of them to Jimmy Butler, so that means, and I have some other
Yes.
ones I gotta give out. So I'm gonna give only one to Duncan Robinson, but he deserves more. You know
Yeah.
what? I'm gonna give three. I changed my mind. I'm giving three vanilla nuggets to Duncan Robinson,
Wow.
um, because he was that he was sort of the wind in the sails tonight, right? In that second quarter, when he had it going from 3-point range, 4 of 5 in that second quarter to lead what was a 12-3 run that pushed, I think, a 1 or 2 point lead into 10 or whatever it was going
Yeah.
into the half. That was Duncan Robinson, and he just had it. Like that was the reason why you employ a Duncan Robinson. That's like what the Heat are. We've already talked about what he actually did. That's why you have him, and that's why we have been doubling down on Duncan Robinson, saying you can't trade him at the deadline. You can't take him out of the rotation completely, because it's games like this that in the playoffs, when you're playing a defense that actually cares about defending the 3-point line, where if he's got it going like that, he can win you a game, and a game
Yeah.
can win you a series. And that's why you employ somebody like Duncan Robinson. It was great to see him hitting his stride like at that point, like that at this point in the season.
Yeah, 41 points in the second quarter. They got 12 from Jimmy Butler, who we'll talk about shortly, 11 from Tyler Hero, and 12 from Duncan Robinson. That's 35 combined points out of 41 from
Yeah,
those three guys. Amazing that they were able to dominate so completely. And I think Jimmy, again, who we'll talk about soon,
yeah,
benefiting from this weird part of the rotation, the LeBron minutes, as far as him coming out early and then
yeah,
helping pair together with Duncan now and Tyler in that second unit and really exploiting their defenses. He's finding a way to thrive, but also making plays for everybody else. He had
yeah.
4 assists in that quarter alone too. So as Miami's offense was just taking it to another gear in that second quarter, Jimmy was a big part of it, and then Tyler and Duncan were both beneficiaries.
The like the quote unquote small screen action 2-man game between Jimmy Butler and whether it's Duncan Rob, and it was a lot Duncan Robinson tonight. Again, refer to the
Yeah.
highlights that I tweeted out earlier the night, or even Tyler Hero when Kyle Lowry is playing when he's in the game. Like that's really been sort of the evolutionary part of this offense, because it gets Jimmy Butler matched up against smaller guys, right? And tonight it
Right.
was a lot of times Isaiah Thomas or Terry Rozier or somebody like that.
Right.
And that's obviously where Jimmy thrives, but it also gets guys like Tyler and Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson in space too. And that's a big reason why you saw Duncan Robinson take off in the second quarter, was those guard screen actions that I was just talking about. Jimmy Butler gets one vanilla Vienna crisp
Finger.
thing, finger. Uh, we mentioned the scoring, 27 points on 9 of 15 shooting. He made 2 of his 4 threes. That's been ramping up. He wore the shooting sleeve tonight. He called himself a combination of like Luka Doncic and Allen Iverson or something after the game. I don't know.
Yeah.
But also had 8 assists. You mentioned the 4 in the second quarter there on a night without Kyle Lowry, obviously still out for basically rest purposes. He set the tone tonight. for the Heat,
Yep.
right? He was unselfish when he needed to be. He was selfish when he needed to be. Just a masterful game from Jimmy Butler all around.
Absolutely. The shooting 2 of 4 from 3-point range, very unexpected and always fun to see him knock down a couple of shots. The shooting sleeve, he joked about it with Kyle a few games ago. I think it's going to be part
Yeah,
of the wardrobe moving forward. And you know what? As long as he keeps hitting those shots, it's fine. But I'm glad that you brought up that unselfish impact that he's had because he's sharing the ball. Just again, 5 games separated. No, I'm sorry, 7 games separated from that incredible
yes,
fight on the demonstration there, that on the sidelines. He's become like this perfect player, the version of Jimmy that we all expected him to be right as he's entering into the playoffs. He's shooting well, sharing the ball, getting to the line at will, just creating and setting the pace for this Miami Heat offense that is hitting
yeah.
an incredible peak right as the playoffs begin.
Jimmy said something really interesting after the game. He mentioned how they were unselfish.
Yeah,
This is a naturally unselfish team, and they were still unselfish tonight, but not so unselfish that they ended up overpassing and committing careless turnovers. Only 14 turnovers, 15. I'm sorry, 15 turnovers that led to just 6 Charlotte points tonight. That's a huge reason why this team won the game.
yeah,
And I wonder if that was a point of emphasis from the coaching staff recently, in that, hey, you know what, when you got a bucket, just get your bucket.
yeah.
It feels like that kind of the why did you pass that one up sort of moments in these games that we often have had with this team over the last 3 years has been a little bit less during this 5 game win streak. So just something to keep an eye on. We got one more cookie finger thingy left, and I'm going to give it to Bam Adebayo. Don't need to
Oh,
spend a lot of time on this. 22 points, 7 of 10 shooting. He had 9 rebounds, 3 assists, had a steal in the game. Played great defense overall on a night where there
yeah.
wasn't a whole lot of great defense being played. Had a nice dunk there early in the game, which you love to see that level of aggression from him. Tidy, efficient, exactly what you need from Bam tonight.
Yeah, great going against Plumlee. As I mentioned before, matching that physicality, looked like he was attacking, setting the pace. Really instrumental, quietly so, but at the same time making an obvious impact in the game. However, I did find an extra Vienna finger tucked into Jimmy
Oh,
Butler's shooting sleeve. Yeah, one extra one, and I'm giving it to Chris Quinn if I can, because I think
yes.
he's doing a good job. Like he mentioned before
Yeah.
the game. That he's still in constant communication with Spo. They texted regularly. They've been FaceTiming. He's been very involved. There's on Zoom all the time. So clearly, Spo still has his hands in everything. But for Chris Quinn, now coaching his 3rd game at the NBA as far as the head coaching spot is concerned, he did another great job of getting guys in and out of the lineup, mixing everybody in, and then making a curious decision not to play Victor Oladipo. So something we'll talk about in the next segment, because I think that's a big question for a lot of Heat fans, is why Oladipo didn't get any burn tonight, considering he had an incredible night on Sunday against the Toronto Raptors. But before we do that, just a reminder that this show is sponsored by Built Bar. It's hard to keep to your resolutions if you're trying to eat healthy. I know you probably just easier to grab some kind of chocolate bar or candy bar of some kind, just another sweet treat that you can indulge in. But you know what? You don't have to give up any of the benefits of a protein bar, and you don't have to sacrifice any of the taste when it comes to Built Bar, because they're all soft, easy to chew, 100% covered in chocolate, and so many delicious flavors to choose from. You can get a mixed box with all of your favorites. I love that option. There's the puffs, the protein infused marshmallow candy bar. Again, and we're talking about these things. It's like talking about candy bars, yet they're good for you. They've got all the nutrients you're looking for. I made a mistake the other night in saying that they were vegan. Unfortunately, they're not vegan, but they do adhere to almost every other diet that you can imagine. So whatever you're looking for, you'll find it in a Built Bar. And best of all, if you go to built.com, use the promo code LOCK15, and you get 15% off your order. So use the promo code LOCK15 for 15% off, but only if you go to built.com. Thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NBA, Locked On Experts, covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Wes, I did want to mention that PJ Tucker left the game early with a strained calf injury. At least that's what the team is calling it. I'm sure they'll probably continue to monitor that and hope that he does not get into it and make it any worse. But the Heat are off until Friday when they host the Atlanta Hawks
Mm-hmm.
for their last regular season home game at FTX Arena before wrapping up the regular season in Orlando against their in-state rival, who's hitting their peak at just the wrong time, as perfect for the Orlando Magic. They're playing really good basketball. They
They might
actually
hit their
beat.
over, the
They might.
betonline.net over.
Yeah, they might.
It looks
They
like
might.
they the PJ Tucker thing is tough, given, like you said, the point of the season that they're in. Markieff Morris missing tonight a hip thing, which I think is partially made up, given that Markieff Morris was at the Kansas game on Monday night. But
Yeah.
I'm just, that's not reporting. That's just complete speculation, but makes a ton of sense and probably what it actually happened. But
Right.
I wouldn't be shocked if they just shut PJ Tucker down for the rest of. I mean, we're talking about the rest of the season, 2 more games, like whatever, and only
Yeah.
like by the time that Orlando game rolls around on Sunday, that game might not even matter, and everybody might be shut down, right? Like that might be a whole lot of Haywood Highsmith and Michael Mulder on Sunday in Orlando, but I could see them maybe shutting PJ Tucker down just to be safe. It wouldn't shock
Yeah.
me, and then maybe playing Markieff Morris at that spot on Friday when that hip thing magically disappears.
Yeah. So standings watch. I mean, look, the Heat still in
Yes.
first in the Eastern Conference after their 5th straight win. They're at 52-28. They've got a 2.5 game lead over the Boston Celtics, who are tied with Milwaukee. They both have 3
And
games left
Philadelphia.
on their respective schedule. Yeah, that's right. All 3 teams 49-30. So Miami can't afford to lose both games if they want to stay in first. They could still have to at least win one more, and that would make them uncatchable at that point. If they can win either in
Yeah.
Atlanta against Atlanta or in Orlando, that will seal the deal in the regular season. So we'll see how
So
that
so
pans
all
out.
3 of those teams will play before Miami plays on Friday
Right.
against the Hawks, right? So you're right. You probably still need one more win,
Mm-hmm.
given everything. But yeah, if the Heat take care of business Friday night, the Celtics play
Well,
Wednesday in
Boston,
Chicago, and then
Boston,
they
yeah,
play
Boston faces Milwaukee too, so they're gonna
on Thursday
one
on the
team is
second
gonna,
night of a back-to-back.
yeah. So somebody's gonna
So
lose that game, and it's gonna help
yeah,
Miami out.
yeah, and then the other thing that is worth watching for Heat fans, obviously, what's going on in the play-in tournament. So worth noting that all of the top 6 seeds in the East are set. Chicago, Toronto, they cannot fall out of the 5 and 6 spots,
Right.
and it's Cleveland, Brooklyn, Atlanta, and Charlotte from 7 to 10 in some order. In some order, they're like a game and a half separates those 4 teams. So right now, as we're talking, it's Cleveland and Brooklyn in the 7-8 matchup, and Atlanta and Charlotte in the 9-10 matchup. I don't think that, based on what we saw tonight, the Heat should be worried about anybody in that 9-10 matchup. I know that they play Atlanta on Friday, but still. And then that Cleveland Brooklyn game, that's what's worth monitoring, as well as who ends up seeds 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
It would be really hard for the Heat to drop the top seed at this
Well,
point.
Friday's game gets a
Possible,
little
but not
extra.
but hard.
Yeah, Friday's game gets a little extra drama too, because that could be a preview of the upcoming first round playoff series. Because yeah, it looks like
Well, it could be
Brooklyn.
important to win that game too, because if you
Yeah.
want to drop Atlanta into that 9-10 and keep Brooklyn in that 7-8, which I think is ideal, right? Like
Right.
if you're that scared of Brooklyn and you probably think they're going to win that 7-8 game regardless of where it's played, then best case scenario for Miami is that Brooklyn ends up winning that 7-8 game and ends up the 7 seed, and then you're playing one of the Cleveland, Atlanta, or Charlotte teams, and you're not worried about that in the first round at all.
Right.
So yeah, if you beat Atlanta on Friday, that kind of keeps them pushed down in the standings. That could be really important.
Of those 3 teams, is there one that's particularly scary? I think we could dismiss
No.
Charlotte. As good they are, as good as they are offensively, they're just as bad defensively, as Tyler Herro noted. So I'm not concerned. I think Atlanta is plucky, but they've got enough injury issues as well. Trae Young, always an X factor, but even if he goes off in a series, Miami's going to be able to shut down everybody else.
And Atlanta kind of has that Hornets problem too, where they just can't guard anybody, right? And so
Right.
it's like, yeah, I guess LaMelo Ball or Trae Young could go off, but we're going
Right.
to score 130 points, so it doesn't matter.
Cleveland, still
Cleveland,
missing
I
Jared
don't know.
Allen.
Yeah, they're too beat up, which it sucks for them. I mean, they shouldn't even be in the play-in if they were healthy.
Right.
They would be a really fun team. They still are, I guess. But yeah, I'm not worried about any of those teams. I'm just not.
All right. Well, then let's talk about the rotation, because I think, again, a lot of people might have questions about what happened to Victor Oladipo. I know Chris
Yeah.
Quinn made some comments about it in his post-game presser. What did he say about Oladipo's minutes?
Just said that based on the fact that Jimmy Butler was available, unlike the Raptors game where Victor Oladipo obviously had that big 21-point game, but with
Yeah.
Butler available, that they just didn't have a spot in the rotation for Oladipo, and
Right.
which may sound curious given that they gave garbage time minutes to guys like Yurtseven and Michael Mulder and Javante Smart, Haywood
Right.
Highsmith at the end, but that's almost like disrespectful at this point to
Yes.
Victor Oladipo to give him the garbage
Yes.
time minutes. You don't put him in those positions, and so especially considering that he's coming off of a major injury and rehab, you're not
Right.
putting him in garbage time minutes. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, he's just out of the rotation, and I don't know what else to say about it other than that's what it is, right? And I wrote
Yeah.
about this on my Substack. Even after the 21-point outing against the Raptors, there's just not a spot for him. And it has
Right.
nothing to do with it. I don't know that it has much to do like, it's not a slight on Victor Oladipo. It's just what this team needs. And Oladipo,
Right.
I know that he made like 6 threes or whatever it was against the Raptors, but he's not a floor spacer. He's not treated as such. Struess, even Caleb Martin, obviously Duncan Robinson, like those, Gabe Vincent, those guys are treated more as floor spacers than Victor Oladipo is, and that's what you need with this team. Victor Oladipo is a little bit more high usage as well than those
Yeah.
guys who are a little bit more catch and shoot, and so there's just not really a spot in the rotation for Victor Oladipo, and it sucks. It just took way too long to get him on the court this year. There wasn't
Right.
enough time for to ramp him up and figure it out. And you're getting into the postseason now, and this is the best. This is Miami's best chance to win is with this rotation, and unfortunately for Oladipo, it doesn't include him in it.
Yeah, I think the priority is if they re-sign him to figure out how to integrate him alongside Jimmy Butler,
Yes.
because it's clear from Quinn's comments that they're not exactly playable together. I mentioned a couple episodes ago that there is some duplicative nature there to their offensive attack, their attacking style, getting to the bucket and stuff like that. But that Oladipo, a little different in his game because he's more willing at this point in his career to rise up for that 3-point shot. So I still had hope that maybe they might be able to find a way of getting him out here there as another catch and shoot option, a guy who can drill the 3-pointer because he did such a great job against Toronto. But clearly, Quinn does not think that that's something he can do as easily, and certainly not as
Quinn
easily
and,
as
Quinn and Spoelstra, we should mention, like, that's not a
yeah,
decision Quinn gets to make on his own. I know that
that's
he's doing
true.
a great job, but that's an Eric Spoelstra, that's a Pat Riley, like that's a top-down organizational thing because of how much you had riding on Victor Oladipo, considering that you have his bird rights this summer and everything that you have. Should just mention before we sign off here, though, we recorded pretty soon after that Raptors win, and we didn't get a chance to listen in on Victor Oladipo's comments after the game. But listening into them since then, it was clear that he was not, like, even after scoring, having a great night the way that he did, he wasn't happy with the fact that he was out of the rotation. And this is not, he didn't say that, but it was just based on sort of his body language and the way he was sort of short with the media and stuff like that. He clearly believes that the quote that's going around, "Hey, I've always been this guy," right? Like nothing has changed. I've always been this guy, and he feels like he just needs playing time and a chance
Yeah.
to prove it. He's not getting that chance, and he probably won't. Now, that's not to say that he won't get opportunities in the postseason. Eric Spoelstra has said time and time again, it is playoff dependent what happens with these rotations. That said, I still think that there are some guiding principles, and that is getting Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, specifically those two guys, in space. I don't know that Oladipo helps them do that, but if for some reason against some matchup, Spoelstra decides that he needs more of Victor Oladipo, we could see him in the playoffs. But right now, I would bet against it, not for it. I'm not saying it's impossible. It just seems like something has to give for that to happen, and I wouldn't just assume that we're going to see Oladipo in a major role in the postseason.
I'd sit Jimmy down for the next 2 games and start
Yeah,
Oladipo. I think that would placate him to some degree, continue to get him a little bit sharper, understand his role a little bit differently, playing with these on and off lineups, as far as that starting rotation is concerned, and getting him the experience he needs so that he can feel a little bit more comfortable and
yeah.
then start to kind of tailor his role a little bit more specifically when it comes down to the offense. But we'll see what happens.
And give Jimmy some rest. To your point,
Absolutely. Yeah, much needed rest there. So we'll see how it plays out on Friday. Won't have a recap of that game, but we'll have a couple other episodes left for you later on this week, including a mailbag and addressing Bam Adebayo's Defensive Player of the Year candidacy, because I think that we're both in agreement that it's
yes.
clear he is the DPOY. But that does it for today's show. Just a reminder that you can always reach us via email at lockedonheat@gmail.com or via Twitter using the hashtag AskHelloHeat. Be sure to please subscribe to the show and leave a review. It's always free and available wherever you get podcasts. This is David Ramil signing off for now. Thanks so much for joining me, Wes.
Wrap it up, B. Like and subscribe on YouTube.